morning, Rangan.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Kiran, Archana, Sonki, Seema, Shilpa. And I see that Yasmin has not yet come on the line. So we can start reading. And Sonki says we have to read it. So one of you has to read. Sonki, you yourself can start.
Yes, I can read.
Yeah, go ahead.
But finally, there must open in us, as our mental life deepens and subtler knowledge develops, the perception that the terrestrial and the supraterrestrial are not the only terms of being. There is something which is supracosmic and the highest remote origin of our existence. This perception is easily associated by spiritual enthusiasm, by the height and ardor of the soul's aspiration, by the philosophic aloofness or the strict logical intolerance of our intellect, by the eagerness of our will, or by a sick disgust in our vital being, discouraged by the difficulties, or disappointed by the result of life, by any or all of these motive forces. With a sense of the entire vanity and unreality of all else than this remote supreme, the vanity of human life, the unreality of cosmic existence, the bitter ugliness and cruelty of earth, the insufficiency of heaven, the aimlessness of the repetition of birth in the body. Here, again, the ordinary man cannot really live with these ideas. They can only give at most a grayness and restless dissatisfaction to the life in which he must still continue. But the exceptional man abandons all to follow the truth he has seen, and for him they can be the needed food of his spiritual impulse, or a stimulus to the one achievement that is now for him the one thing that matters. Periods, periods and countries there have been, in which this view of being has become very powerful. A considerable part of the race has swerved aside to the life of the ascetic, not always with a real call to it. The rest adhere to the normal life, but with an underlying belief in its unreality, a belief which can bring about by too much reiteration and insistence on unearthing of the life impulse and an increasing littleness of its motives, or even by a subtle reaction, an absorption in an ordinary narrow living through a missing of our natural response to the divine being's larger joy in cosmic existence, and a failure of the great progressive human idealism by which we are spurred to a collective self-development and a noble embrace of the battle and the labor. Here again, there is a sign of some insufficiency in the statement of the supracosmic reality, perhaps an overstatement or a mistaken opposition, a missing of the divine equation of the total sense of creation and the entire will of the Creator.
Okay. So in the previous para, before that, he has told us that there are three views of life which are the possible opinions that people can have. One is the material world is real and the only reality. The other is that God is real and the physical world is unreal. And the third is that both are real. Okay? And in the para that we read yesterday, he has discussed the materialistic view. And the materialistic view, he has given all the shades and the possibilities that even the materialist can have an ideal, he can serve humanity, he can make himself a better man. So all those things he discussed. This para that we have read today, he is discussing the other one. That means the God alone is real. Okay. So what are the possibilities and all that he is looking into. So we'll have a look at that now. We'll read that. 702. 702 is, but finally. Okay. Now, I'm reading each sentence and we will see whether it is clear. Okay. But finally, there must open in us, as our mental life deepens and subtler knowledge develops, the perception that the terrestrial and the supra-terrestrial are not the only terms of being. In other words, the terrestrial is the materialistic view, and the supra-terrestrial is the spiritual view. But now he is saying that even beyond these, there is a third level, okay, which you understand when your knowledge deepens and your aspiration also increases. That's what he said. Okay? But finally, there must open in us, as our mental life deepens and subtler knowledge develops, the perception that the terrestrial, the materialistic view, and the supra-terrestrial, the spiritual view, that means God alone is real, are not the only terms of being. There is something which is supra-cosmic. That's a third level. Okay? The supra-cosmic is the third level. And note the interesting words, supra-terrestrial. Supra-terrestrial means above the earth. Okay? Above the earth. You can have a cosmic consciousness there, but you are seeing the cosmos. So that is the second level. Now he is taking supra-cosmic, which is beyond the cosmos. In other words, the transcendent. Okay? So he is again coming back to the concept of the three levels. Okay? The transcendent is the highest level, the universal is the second level, and the individual, the multiplicity, where the multiplicity is there, that's the lowest level. Okay? The three, in different words you can describe, but always these three terms come into the picture. Okay? And Sriyamda is the one who is insisting on the third level. All the others, there is a hint of the third level in the Gita, but Sriyamda is saying that can be made absolutely practical. The others are, by the way, you may wonder about the transcendental. Even in the second level, you can experience the transcendental. Okay? You can experience it even at the second level. Okay? So keep that in mind. As I said, glimpses of it can always be had. Okay? So these are the three levels that he's talking about. Now he's talking about the third level. Okay? There is something which is supra-cosmic, not supra-terrestrial, even above the cosmos, and the highest remote origin of our existence. There you are. It is supermind, that is he's talking about, supermind or supramental or gnosis. Okay, all these words are equivalent. Sometimes he uses the word truth consciousness also. So he is referring, all these words refer to the third level, where you have the divine consciousness, but you also have the power to make changes in the physical world. In the supra-terrestrial level 2, the power to change the things on the material level is there, but it's not complete. Okay? A spiritual man can have effects in the physical world, but it is not complete. There is something which is supracosmic and the highest remote origin of our existence. This perception is easily associated with spiritual enthusiasm. Even a yogi who has gone to the second level, he sees that there is a division between spirit and matter. Both are real, but there is a division. They seem to belong not to each other. They seem to exist together, but they are not one. They are different. Okay? This is also Sriyamda's view. Right up to the overmind level, he found that spirit and matter are different. Purusha and Prakriti are separate. And that is the reason why he knew that there is something higher which will unite these two. And that's why in 1926, he withdrew. And he says, that is what I have to try. So 1926, 1936, 1946, and finally 1950. So how many years? 24 years he was trying his best to achieve the supermental. He had experience of the supermental, but he decided in 1950 to go into the supra-terrestrial planes and from there help Mother to bring it down. It took another 6 years to bring down the supermental, which they had made their goal in life. And after that, after 1956, Mother was engaged in trying to transform her own body, which had a biological origin, a material origin. She was trying to transform. She went right up to the subtle physical level, and then the world conditions not being ready, the experiment was postponed. Okay, that was the very clear statement of Nolira. He said the work of transformation of the body is postponed. So, this is the background to it. Okay, so we are now discussing the third level. Okay. This perception that there is a third level, beyond the cosmos and beyond the individual, this perception is easily associated with spiritual enthusiasm. It is Srivastava's enthusiasm that made him realize that you have to go to the third level. By the height and ardor of the soul's aspiration, by the philosophic aloofness or the strict logical intolerance of our intellect. Okay? So, intolerance of the intellect, we'll see that. By the eagerness of our will or by a sick disgust in our vital being, discouraged by the difficulties or disappointed by the results of life. When you are in the physical world, however much you try, you don't seem to get any positive result, no transformation possible. So you get disgusted and say, I want something which is outside this universe, which is absolutely condemned to a permanent imperfection. That's what. Then you try to get to the higher and you manage to get to the higher, but at the exclusion of the lower level. So doesn't want exclusion.
Dada?
Yes. Tell me.
Is this supra-physical and the subtle physical? What is the difference between them? So, a supra-terrestrial and subtle physical?
Subtle physical is in level 2 only. It's there even in level 1. Subtle physical is horizontal, not vertical. Even a man in the normal condition, when you are going into your, we are dreaming, your soul is going into the subtle physical. When you are dreaming, you are outside your body very often. But you are not spiritual, you are not spiritualized. It's not in the higher. It's at the same level, but inside. I told you now there are two types of, one is going horizontally into yourself, and the other is to climb up. And the climbing up vertically is into the spiritual plane of consciousness. You are going into the intra-conscious. First you go into the subtle physical, then you go into the subtle vital, then you go into the subtle mind, and then you go behind even more into the psychic being. So that is at this level only, horizontal. If you draw a map, pardon?
And supra-terrestrial?
Supra-terrestrial is the spiritual planes of consciousness. Supra-terrestrial.
Okay.
Terrestrial means physical. Body, mind, life.
This is the word.
That is level 2 spiritual planes of consciousness. As defined by Sri Aurobindo, supra-terrestrial is higher mind, element mind, over mind, intuitive mind and over mind. Third level is super mind. Is that clear?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Dada. Okay, Dada. Okay.
So, the subtle physical is, as I said, every day you are going into subtle physical when you are dreaming.
Or just you explained, and we have already also been explained in somewhere else that Sri Aurobindo is working and Mother are working there from the subtle physical plane. Just we have read yesterday in the Thoughts and Aphorism, the Mother is experiencing the subtle physical world, and she is experiencing that the living and the dead both are there present.
Let us stick to life divine, okay? Let us stick to life.
Okay, Dada. Thank you.
This perception is easily associated, okay? And you can feel that there is something much higher. Sri has given all the reasons. First of all, reason, spiritual enthusiasm. The second reason, the height and ardor of the soul's aspiration, or by the philosophical aloofness or the strict logical intolerance of our intellect. Okay? It's not very clear to me what you mean by strict logical intolerance of our intellect. Well, intolerance of what? That is not very clear to me. I'll have to think about it. Okay? By the eagerness, when does the intellect not tolerate, and what does it not tolerate to make you go to the spiritual level? Okay, I've understood. I think it is he's talking of the rejection of suffering and perversion in the physical world. Yes, that's right. So the intellect, when it is idealistic, it cannot tolerate all this falsehood. How can it be? The intellect rejects it. An idealistic man will reject all these things. The falsity and the perversion and the suffering. There's a Corsican girl, a friend of mine, and she said that I just cannot understand how God could have made this suffering. Okay? I said, you read the chapter on daylight of existence, then you will come to know. No. All that I don't want. I don't accept this suffering. How can God have done that? So she's an agnostic. Okay? So that is what is meaning here by the intolerance of the intellect. It is impossible for the intellect to understand how there can be suffering, there can be pain, perversion, falsehood in the physical world. Then you get disgusted and you want to go up to a place where these things don't exist. That's what it means. Yeah, it's very clear. Okay? So intolerance of the intellect also will make you go up. Okay? Or the eagerness of our will, or by sick disgust in our vital being, discouraged by the difficulties or disappointed by the results of life. The vital also can't get enjoyment here at all, so it wants to go up. Okay? So, by any or all of these motive forces, with a sense of the entire vanity and unreality of all else than this remote supreme, the vanity of human life, the unreality of cosmic existence, the bitter ugliness and cruelty of earth, the insufficiency of heaven. Now that's interesting. What is meant by insufficiency of heaven? You are in the spiritual plane of consciousness, but it is not enough. You still see that the divine is up and the physical world is without the divine. You see a difference between the two. So that is insufficiency. Heaven is not sufficient to come down here. That heaven can come down here only at the third level. Therefore, you try to go up. Okay? So very clearly, so they give you all the reasons why you would like to look for a place where all these things disappear and there's total oneness. Only oneness, not even two. In the spiritual planes, you have two. That's why you have the philosophy of Sankhya and the dualism and all these things. But you want total oneness. One origin for everything. Okay? So that's what he means. He has given you so many different reasons. All right? The insufficiency of heaven. The insufficiency of heaven is very clear. He means level 2, the spiritual plane of consciousness. But normally, a yogi, when he goes to the spiritual level, he sees that there is difference between spirit and matter. He sees that there is a division, but doesn't bother too much about it. But I've got it enough. I remember very clearly. Okay, there was sometimes we get very satisfied with something which is there. I'll give you an instance of the. You have to understand correctly my image. Okay? There was a property being sold, and the property rate at that time was 5 lakhs. I'm just being a summary. Okay, 5 lakhs. But a person who was handling the sale said that if you wait for 3-4 years more, you can get even 1 crore. 5 lakhs is not enough, you can get even 1 crore. But the person to whom the property belonged said, no. Why wait 5 years? After that, what will happen? We don't know. I'm quite satisfied with 5 lakhs. And I don't want 1 crore. I want 5 lakhs. So this psychology of wanting something immediately and satisfying you is exactly what happens at the spiritual level. So you get something which you never had. Peace, calm, sense of infinity, freedom. So you're more than satisfied. Okay? That's what Self is meaning by insufficiency of. But there can be the exceptional man who says, this is not enough for me. I don't want only peace. I don't want only freedom. I want also power. I want Ananda. Where is Ananda here? There's no Ananda. Okay, there's no power. So that's what Self is meaning by insufficiency of intellect. Okay. So, with a sense of the entire vanity and unreality of all else, then this remote supreme, the vanity of human life, vanity, human life at the end, nothing. It's all the same every time. Okay? Unreality of all else and this remote supreme, the vanity of human life, the unreality of cosmic existence, which you experience very clearly at level 2, okay, in the spiritual plane, the bitter ugliness and cruelty of earth, the insufficiency of heaven, the aimlessness of the repetition of births in the body. It's going on, 1 lakh lives, and nothing is happening. Okay? Here again, the ordinary man cannot really live with these ideas. They can only give at most a grayness and a restless dissatisfaction to the life in which he must still continue. But the exceptional man abandons all to follow the truth he has seen, and for him, they can be the needed food of spiritual impulse or a stimulus to the one achievement that is now for him the one thing that matters. Periods and countries there have been in which this view of being has become very powerful. A considerable part of the race has swerved aside to the life of the ascetic. Not always with a real call to it. The rest adhere to the normal life, but with an underlying belief in its unreality. A belief which can bring about, by too much reiteration and insistence, an unnerving of the life impulse and an increasing littleness of its motives. And even by subtle reaction, an absorption in an ordinary narrow living through the missing of our natural response to the divine being's larger joy in cosmic existence, and a failure of the great progressive human idealism by which we are spurred to a collective self-development and a noble embrace of the battle and the labor. So, the noble embrace of the battle and labor, it can apply also to the spiritual life, but it can also apply to the one who wants to go to the 3rd level and have power to change the world. Here again, there is a sign of insufficiency in the statement of the supra-cosmic reality. So, Self is now saying we have to be more specific about what we mean by supra-cosmic. Okay? That's the 3rd level. Perhaps an overstatement or a mistaken opposition, a missing of the divine equation of the total sense of creation and the entire will of the Creator. I am reading that sentence again and we'll see what he means exactly. Here again, there is a sign of some insufficiency. What is he meaning? He is meaning that if you go to the 3rd level, even the insufficiencies of the 2nd level get cancelled. You are absolutely in peace and calm. But what is the insufficiency he is talking about? He is talking about the insufficiency that leaves the physical world imperfect. So that insufficiency is not yet spoken about. That no, the 3rd level is not enough. You have to bring the 3rd level down into the physical world and change the physical world also. That is the insufficiency that he is talking about. I think it's clear, no? You have to understand what he's saying. Even the 3rd level, if you limit yourself to the 3rd level, nothing. It is insufficient. That 3rd level having been reached, now you have to bring down the descent. That's now you can get the idea of Srivamulu's yoga, an ascent first and then a descent. Simply the ascent is not enough, even to 3rd level. Okay? You have to bring that down into the lowest level, then transform. That's what I mean by the insufficiency of the statement of the supracosmic reality. Supracosmic, third level, very clear. Perhaps an overstatement or a mistaken opposition. What is that? Opposition between spirit and matter. Okay. A missing divine equation. Very clear the words. Divine equation. That is to say, spirit is equal to matter. That's what it means by divine equation. Okay. So don't go up to the third level and remain there peaceful and calm. You have to equate the spirit to matter. You have to come down of the total sense of creation, total sense of creation, and the entire will of the creator. What is that entire will? There's an evolution of the physical world, and I am revealing the divine slowly, little by little, in the third lowest level. That's the will of the divine. If you see the total sense of creation, okay, you're not leaving the physical world out, you're including it. And the entire will of the creator, he uses these words very often to express that the physical world also must be changed. Okay? So, very interesting words, and you have to read behind the words. So, total sense of creation means the physical world is included. And the entire will of the creator, is not only the liberation of the individual, but also liberation of the third level. In synthesis, he talks of the liberation of the soul. Step number 1, level 2. Then he goes on to the next one, the liberation of nature, level 3, and bring it down to level 1. Okay? So, I hope it's clear what I'm saying. So, now we can go to the next one. Now he will tell you what that equation is. Okay? Equation means what? Equal to. Spirit as equal to matter. In Life Divine, right in the beginning, it said, first chapter, remember? Matter is a fit instrument for making a robe for the divine. Then he goes into the next paragraph and says, matter is not only a fit instrument for the divine, not only a fit raiment, good clothing, but itself is the divine. Matter itself is the divine. Right in chapter 1. Okay? And now he's 700 pages later, he's bringing up the same idea again. Okay? So, we read the next one. That equation can be found only if you find. So, Archana Ji, if you have the text with you and you are there, you can read. Maybe she is not there. In that case, anyone else, either Shilpa or Kiran. Or Yasmin. Yasmin has not read for a long time. If you are there, Yasmin.
Yes, please.
Then go ahead, read that equation.
That equation can only be found if we recognize the purpose of our whole complex human nature in its right place in the cosmic movement. What is needed is to give its full legitimate value to each part of our composite being and many-sided aspiration and find out the key of their unity as well as their difference. The finding must be by a synthesis or an integration, and since development is clearly the law of the human soul, it is most likely to be discovered by an evolutionary synthesis. A synthesis of this kind was attempted in the ancient Indian culture. It accepted four legitimate motives of human living: man's vital interests and needs, his desires, his ethical and religious aspirations, his ultimate spiritual aim and destiny. In other words, the claims of his vital, physical, and emotional being, the claims of his ethical and religious being, governed by a knowledge of the law of God and nature and man, and the claims of his spiritual longing for the beyond, for which he seeks satisfaction by an ultimate release from an ignorant, mundane existence. It provided for a period of education and preparation based on this idea of life, a period of normal living to satisfy human desires and interests under the moderating rule of the ethical and religious part in us, a period of withdrawal and spiritual preparation, and a last period of renunciation of life and release into the spirit. Evidently, if applied as a universal rule, this prescribed norm, this delineation of the curve of our journey, would miss the fact that it is impossible for all to trace out the whole circle of the development of a single short lifetime, but it was modified by the theory of a complete evolution pursued through a long succession of rebirths before one could be fit for a spiritual liberation. This synthesis, with its spiritual insight, largeness of view, symmetry, completeness, did much to raise the tone of human life, but eventually it collapsed. Its place was occupied by an exaggeration of the impulse of renunciation, which destroyed the symmetry of the system and cut it into two movements of life in opposition to each other. The normal life of interest and desires with ethical and religious coloring, and a normal or supernormal inner life founded on renunciation. The old synthesis, in fact, contained in itself the seed of this exaggeration and could not but lapse into it. For it, we regard the escape from life as our desirable end. If we come to hold up any high offer of life fulfillment, if life has not a divine significance in it, the impatience of the human intellect and will must end by driving at a shortcut and getting rid as much as possible of any more radius and dilatory processes. If it cannot do that, or if it is incapable of following the shortcut, it is left with the ego and its satisfaction, but with nothing greater to be achieved here. Life is split into the spiritual and the mundane, and there can only be an abrupt transition, not a harmony or reconciliation of these parts of our nature.
Okay, very big para, and we'll have to discuss this next time. But I'm just giving you the basic thing what he's saying. Okay, we have got 7 minutes, so I'll give you the summary and also I'll tell you what he's saying. He's saying that this perception in the Vedic period that the heaven is our father and the earth is my mother. In other words, from the highest to the lowest, everything is divine. This idea was there and it gave birth to the Indian theory that everything has a place. Okay, even such a thing as he's talking about artha, kama, dharma, moksha. Okay, this idea was there in India. Okay? It is trying to even artha, that means the earning money, okay, and kama, okay, even the maintaining the family and satisfying desires. That also has got a meaning. And dharma, okay, then after that you go to religion and finally you get moksha. So, in other words, the attempt of Indian culture was to provide for everything from the lowest to the highest. But that problem was at the highest, it stopped only at level 2 moksha. That's what basically he's saying. Okay? That was not enough. So he's finding fault with even the Indian system. It stopped at level 2. That was the whole problem. It was a huge thing at that time because the idea was the world is real and enjoy the physical life as much as you can. So it was a huge difference from that, yet it was insufficient. That's what it is. Now, after this discussion, I will read to you the summary of what he said here. If I have it. Yes, I have it. This equation, I'm reading the summary, huh? Just, I'm telling you in gist what he said in this paragraph. This equation between spirit and matter, Equation means both are real to each other. Okay? Equal. Spirit is equal to matter. Can be found if we recognize the complexity of our human nature without undue stress on any one single aspect. Take everything into account, then you will understand. Each aspect of the human nature must be given its legitimate right of development. And then a synthesis can be found if we see the law of soul development through an evolutionary ascent. Ancient Indian culture found this synthesis in the conception of the fourfold aim of life more than fourfold aim of life. More of this in the next paragraph. We will discuss in the, as I said, Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Okay? Man's physical and vital and the mind have all to be seen as divine elements. Okay? Having the right to self-fulfillment. Even your body, which your ascetic is rejecting, it has a right to exist and it has a right to self-fulfillment. Vital also. There were 4 periods in human life. A period of education and self-preparation. The normal life, he is talking of the 4 levels of development. So, the first is period of education and self-preparation, brahmacharya. Okay? Then, the normal life of a householder, grihastha, to satisfy the vital desires and needs. Then the next one, a period of withdrawal from worldly life for preparation for spiritual life. The last period of renunciation of the worldly life and a liberation into the spirit. So, Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Okay? Or we have also put in different words, Brahmacharyam, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and finally Sannyasa. Okay? So same idea put in different words. The last period of renunciation of the worldly life. Then he is saying, the summary, this system was comprehensive and synthetic, but it got degraded by its dissection of the worldly and the spiritual life. That was the whole problem. Finally, sannyasa, you are giving up the physical world, you're making a difference between spirit and matter. Evidently, all 4 periods could not be included and completed in the span of a single life. This system was intended to be applied over many lives with reincarnation as a necessary condition. As has been pointed out, the failure of the practice was caused by the flaw in the last period when the renunciation of worldly life became necessary for pursuit of spiritual life. If the conception of a divine life on earth is lacking, the natural result is the desirability of escape from earthly life, and so the system lapsed and perished. That's what Sri is saying in that. The insufficiency of the wonderful ideal of the in Indian life. Even that was not enough. Because the last one is sannyasa or moksha, only moksha. So that's what it is. Okay? So we'll go into detail in the next one. And the next time we meet, that is on next Wednesday, we'll go into detail in this part. We'll redo this part. Page 703, that equation. We'll redo it. Okay? There are many subtleties that we have brought out, but if we have to really understand, we'll have to discuss every small phrase. But I hope at least something has been understood by what Siddha is saying. Keep the 3 levels in mind. That makes it very easy to understand. Okay? Level 1, level 2, level 3. It is there in Sri Aurobindo, it is there in the Gita, it is there everywhere, these 3 levels. Okay?
Can I ask a question, please?
Go ahead, Yasmin.
What is the significance of Vanaprastha? Imagine you are going and living in the forest, and that too at a much older age. So isn't it a form of torture, like whipping your body or something like that? Because how does one live in the forest?
You can take that vanaprastha as a symbol, but also as a fact. Because the rishis are all always away from the cities. So you are away from the busy cities and its worldly attractions. So you want to get away from all that. You have had your artha, kama, you have satisfied yourself. Then you go to the vanaprastha, you concentrate on spiritual life. That you can take it in a physical way and you can also take it as a symbol. Nowadays, nobody goes to the forest, but they retire from life. You can see that phenomenon very clearly. Most of the people who even study here, they go out and they satisfy their desire to earn money, raise a family, build a house, and come back to Pondicherry after retirement. The same thing is there even in those who come here. Okay, so what Yaswin is asking about the vanaprastha. Okay? So it is the desire to get away from the busy attractions of the physical world. That's the whole idea.
But staying in the ashram also, one has many, many desires.
that is why there is striving. Who is saying that there are no desires? Even at the spiritual level there can be desires. A desire to go into the next level. Desires are there everywhere. Largely. Remember one thing, the gradation. Okay? Even at the spiritual level, there can be gradations. And who knows, even after that, even after the divinization of matter and the supramental race comes, the evolution does not stop. It goes on. Serdar said that very clearly. There is no end to evolution. So desire can be there. But you have to see in Foundations of Indian Culture, he has given a very interesting idea. He says that a culture or a man must be judged by its highest points, what it has reached, never by the average or the lower points. Human beings are always judging people by their defects, but that's not the way to judge a man. Defects will always be there, desires will always be there, but you have to see what he is capable of, how high has he risen, and a culture also, how high has it gone. Take Indian culture. Most of the humanity now in India, they are all only running after wealth and TV and fashion and all these. But that doesn't mean to say that it's of a lower level. It has been capable of giving a spiritual life. So you have to judge a culture by its highest point, not its average or its lower. Same thing should apply also to human beings. Judge him by the best qualities he has, never by the worst. But we are always doing that. We are only seeing the defects and saying this man is like this man is like this. We have to see the best in a man. Okay? So,
And this is a Bahyantar, no? Whatever Bahyantar, whatever they trust, this sannyas, Vanaprastha is like a Bahyantar, you are abandoning thing. But Abhyantar, inside whatever you leave, it will take time. So first start avoiding the outer world.
yes, that's
Then
right.
you go inside. It will
That's
take
right.
years and years.
The
Practice.
purpose of Vanaprastha was exactly that. You avoid the difficulties of life. You have satisfied yourself. You have had artha and kama. Now you go to dharma. So exactly in the same way, brahmacharyam and grihastha, and after that vanaprastha. Okay, we stop here today.
Okay.
Merci
Barabar,
beaucoup.
Barabar.
Thanks, Sangha.
Barabar, Dada.
Have a nice
Barabar.
day.